Paired channel. Okay, so I'm getting Chris. I'm getting conveying your message YouTube. I'm getting my own. Oh, we're live.
Yes,
Apparently,
we are.
apparently we don't get to, you know, click go live twice. Well, hello everybody.
Oh man, it's Friday, 11
So
a.m. Central Time. It's been a week.
yeah, let me check how we're looking. Okay, so we're two little viewpoints with a big screen share. If you turn off your screen share, let me see how we look.
There we go. How are we looking?
1 second.
If you're clicking into this after the fact, please skip ahead to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You get
Okay,
to the
so
good stuff.
we're two guys next to each other with no nameplates.
Okay.
So, but I believe everybody knows. All right. So, in the spirit of this, we're building live and building in public. So, uh, we've done streaming in the past. Very little on LinkedIn. We're exploring how to do this right. Both for our sakes and to better advise our clients because LinkedIn Live is, I have to admit, there's a lot of upside, but there's a lot of technical, know-how and bugginess and finickiness, and unless you're shelling out for some expensive software, nothing is seamless. So, thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for again, this is building live.
Yes, it is. Oh man. So what are we building today? Um,
I heard that the modern buyer experience is very much influenced by Amazon and Domino, and people expect to know what's happening with their orders without having to call anyone or send an email. Did you hear about that?
that's certainly my experience. Uh, and the way I was thinking about it earlier is like I don't have to talk to anybody or email anybody, call anybody to answer a question related to my Amazon experience before the sale or after the sale, especially after the sale. Even when I need a refund, stuff didn't work, you know, it's such a self-serve process that that's a I thought earlier like this is should be a good way to put it. I get all my questions answered without any live engagement from Amazon or anybody that works there. Like all of them, 99% of the time. And a lot of that is is backed on their data management, right? And I think the misunderstanding is that they're one of the biggest companies in the world. They can afford to have complex systems. And, you know, if we're a smaller business, we can't afford to do that. And using systems like HubSpot is just not true anymore. It's first about strategically making the decision that you want to do that, and then understanding like which tools, you know, that can help you do that, and also which, like the data. When you're thinking about data, it's almost always like, how do we see this internally, right? Across departments, you know, from the production floor to the procurement floor, you know, and you need to start asking the question, will I ever want my customer to see this information? And in a lot
I
of
I
cases,
I find that question honestly ridiculous. Like, of course they need to see this. Like there shouldn't be any question about if they need to see information about their order. But in previous experience, personally, and we've been hearing it a lot in our shows, like in ITSL this week, we heard it in background conversations with other manufacturers, with client conversations. That question keeps getting like keeps popping up. It's like, well, I don't want to put this information in the system. I don't want the customer to see that. Why? Why can't you make a collective decision to fix your process, to make a pledge that we're not going to backfill information just because the reports say so, and the executives need to see this once a month. We're going to make sure that if the data shows something wrong, then it's not because it has anything to do with the customer. Like, if we're scared to put the data because, oh my God, the customer is going to see that, then that's not a problem with the communication or the platform. It's a problem with our process, and it's a problem that we need to fix before we even start trying to sell anything to anyone. I don't know if you feel as adamant as me, but like I've been in situations where a simple email notification system was stopped for a whole year just because we don't want transparency. And this goes against everything that we're trying to preach here. Like, customer needs transparency. Without transparency, they won't trust us. They won't get we won't get a repeat order. Especially if we haven't cornered the market. If you cornered the market, maybe you're on a timer until somebody figures out your secret sauce and provides it at the same price with better customer service or a cheaper price or whatever it is. Until then, that's the time you have to figure out your internal process and figure out why people don't want to put the right data in the system and why they're scared to show that data to customers.
Right. And I do feel strongly as well. And I think a lot of it comes down to control, right? It's not about, a lot of times it's not about not wanting them to see it, but just being able to control when they see it and how they see it, because you haven't fixed your process and that data isn't ready for them to see it until they ask you for it, right? Like ship dates, as an example. Like, we know that at the end of the month, there's going to be a customer service review and see how stuff's going. But since that's internally, I don't necessarily need to fill that information in until the end of the month. If I make that available to the customer, that process doesn't work anymore. And I've got to put it in that day when it ships. You know, I've seen so many pieces of data that we're just putting into the system to make the reports work, right? And that is the wrong reason to put data in the system. It's to like either help your colleague get their job done or help your customer answer questions. If those two things, like if you can get those two things to be the reasons for entering the data, then all of a sudden data gets clean, right? Like, because it can't be, if it's not clean or if it's not there, now this person is having to call, email, walk over to your office to get a hold of you and say, I know you did this 2 weeks ago. Like, what happened? Like, oh yeah, we sent it out. It's like, well, the customer hasn't gotten it yet. Do you have the tracking information? Oh yeah, it's right here. Like, that's the kind of
Why do we
stuff.
have customer service teams, if not to just be in their inbox emailing, status reports every day, and picking up the phone to just go through, order updates?
Oh man, hopefully it's to help with the post-sale relationship and not just to answer questions. And I think that's why it's missed a little bit right now, because it's kind of been this, obviously since COVID happened, and everybody was forced to start transacting online in their consumer lives and in business. All of a sudden, like, everybody understood how easy it was to get access to this information in their personal lives. And they are unwittingly, in a lot of cases, bringing that expectation to business. But since these systems don't exist, they're just calling more. They're emailing more. And that has slowly increased. And if you're in that position and you pride yourselves on taking care of the customers, and you've done a good job of that, and you want to have great response times, and you have a history of great response times, you are locked into that inbox or next to that phone, and you're answering it every time, and it becomes a priority. So when that goes from 1 to 5 per day to 10 to 20, all of a sudden you can't do anything else. But you feel like you're doing your job. You feel like you are taking care of the customer. When in reality, they want that information without having to contact you at all. So it's not, so you're answering their question in the moment, so it feels like in this reactive way, like I've served the customer.
There's an extreme version of that. In the past 10 years, it has been on average once or twice a year that a revenue leader just cancels all the meetings that they have with us. And we reach out to them and we're like, what's going on? Why do you cancel everything? It's like, I'm doing an emergency flight on site to some customer because there has been a major blunder, be it a technical blunder, be it a delivery blunder. Like there's some big issue that requires either a revenue leader or even sometimes a CEO to go live, like in person, and to go, fix stuff. And why does that happen that frequently? I have a guess. It's because we let things, degrade, let things rot. We let people just rely on sending emails, and when one too many emails slip, then a giant miscommunication happens, and those blunders are not only risking you losing the account, but are forcing you to spend, on operating expenses to send that leader, or, a supporting cast to go in person, to skip all, to quote unquote skip the technology and talk to the humans directly. Nobody's saying technology is stopping you from talking as humans. You're choosing to optimize for not building human relationships. Simple.
Yeah. And like, to give everybody the benefit of the doubt is because you don't know what's available, especially when these companies are just growing, growth is happening to them. You're in it every day. Like you don't even get time to think about the why behind this stuff. And that's where it's really important for leadership teams to step in and be like, hey, our calls per day have gone up from 5 to 20. What's happening here? And the easy answer is, oh, we're doing more business. Revenue's going up, so naturally, and you can't leave it at that, and that's where, like, if that's the case, like all of a sudden your costs either keep up with or outpace the revenue growth. And that becomes the problem of scalability. And that's why, like, in these companies where they've never had to experience more than 10% per year, it's just they're wholly unprepared for the 20, 30% that they're experiencing right now. And it's unfortunate for the customer experience, both inside and outside of the organization. And a lot of organizations are lucky that they're kind of all in this boat. Nobody's figuring this out. So the customer experience is the same everywhere. And it's just, we got to settle. We need this thing. It's either a commodity or regulations say I have to have it. You're one of the few companies that offers it. I guess I'm buying from you. Right? And we got to try and do better.
Right now it's the holiday seasons. And for people close to me, they know, like, this is the first time I'm spending it with my wife. So I don't have a Christmas tree. I went online and ordered a Christmas tree. And having a big Christmas tree is a logistical challenge. Like, you have to plan for when the Christmas tree is coming. You have to make sure you have more than two hands to help you, bring it up the stairs. We live on the first floor. And you need to make sure that you've cleared whatever space that Christmas tree lives in. And imagine one day you get a notification from HubSpot saying, sorry, not HubSpot, notification from Amazon that says your order has been delayed 3 days. That I never talked to anyone, but now I know, okay, the order is delayed. I know that I don't need those people and that date. I need to shift that date. Didn't need to talk to anybody, didn't need to chat anybody. Why is my industrial sized Christmas tree product service not follow the same thing? Why do I have to badger a customer service rep to know if our, palletizer is going to ship on time and fight through 3 people to get someone to tell me something because everybody's hiding it because there's some problem in it that they can't deliver? Why can't I just go in, sign in to my Amazon portal and get a notification saying, hey, this is why things are not going well. This is the expected new ship date. Yes, it sucks that things are not going well. Yes, it sucks that things are delayed. But at least I have information at my disposal that I can use to make strategic decisions. I can inform my next action. Do I update my own logistics? Do I go back and try to get something, just information and withholding of information is such a broken relationship. We need to fix it. The easiest way is to just copy the consumer expectations. Who doesn't use Amazon? Who hasn't ordered pizza from Domino's? I haven't in a while, but
Right. And granted, like, one, most of the time you're not intentionally withholding the information, but you're making the choice to by setting your people up to have to do it so manually. Like, it's impossible to keep up, especially when it's a sales guy that's being asked to ask for an order update, right? That's the last thing that they want to be talking about. But they're not going to tell the customer that. It's like, okay, let me check for you. And I don't have any system to know about it. I don't have any notifications, so I got to go talk to production. Hopefully they're in a good mood that day and they get right back to me. But most of the time they're busy and I get it and I don't like bothering them. So maybe I put off asking them. And it's just, we're not putting our people in positions to succeed by forcing this mechanism. And number two, it's not necessarily a healthy thing that we've been trained to be able to get our questions answered like immediately because we have a phone in our hands and it's access to information in ways never before. Like, if I'm waiting for an Uber, I don't necessarily need to check my phone 10 times to see where it's at every minute. But since they knew that, or this blew my mind earlier this year, they made an update where I opened up I pulled my phone out of my pocket, and this is like in a cold spot in Pennsylvania. So like I had gloves on and, not always fun to use touch screens, but just like facing myself with the phone, right? The screen comes on and the notification itself, tells me everything I need to know. And that was new since the last time I had used Uber, right? It had a little tracker for the car. It said minutes here. Like the license plate was everything that I would used to have to go into the app for to check specifically. License plate, type of car, where they were. was now available to me without clicking anything. And that was just like, obviously I try to attune to that stuff being a practitioner of good customer experience, but like immediately I was like, man, this is how you continue to innovate on an experience that's already, a game changer. Now this piece, and that's where they know their customer base. They're paying attention to the data of what's happening. And they're not accepting the fact that, man, why does everybody have to open the app so much? Right? They look into why and they feel into why. And then they make it so I don't have to do that anymore. Right?
Yeah.
And it's just those kinds of things, like understanding what the pain points are. And it's obviously a luxury to say that a pain point is opening up the app on my phone. But that's where they're just removing friction, right? Friction in the process, and the right kind of friction removal. Like not all friction can be removed, but when it's a simple question of what's the status, that should never require a human being,
Yeah.
like on the other side of that question.
Earlier, I flubbed my words, said HubSpot instead of Amazon, but we have HubSpot on our minds all the time, and we're really excited about the things that HubSpot has unlocked, not just for us, but for the whole ecosystem. The things that you're able to build without, going and getting a 10-person a software team and getting disparate systems, getting 5, 6 systems to start talking to each other. This customer platform that we're talking about, that all the consumer businesses have, like is not a crazy reality anymore. Like, and honestly, we're excited to show stuff that we shouldn't right now, but let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing it. Yeah, and this is for me, like the CMS on top of the CRM and HubSpot is what enables like point solutions like this, right? And like this, we're talking about a customer portal. And this is the kind of self-service experience that it's available. Like almost to the point, like if you call this today, like by the end of the month at the latest, you could provide this experience to your customers. Doesn't matter where your website is already. Doesn't matter if you want to keep using your CRM that you already have. It doesn't matter about integrating to your ERP. If you have spreadsheets, anyway, the key is put the data in specific places of HubSpot in a HubSpot record. And now all of a sudden it's accessible to your customer because of the CMS web page built on top of it. And that's what I'm showing here. So this page is from our website, and it is a CMS Hub page. One note, this does require CMS Hub Enterprise because that's where you get the membership functionality, you get the custom objects, you get that kind of stuff. And this is supported with custom objects. And so here, I'm logged in, and we see your orders and Growth Launchpad Ignition. Click on that. We've got some resources down here. And this is where, we're building this out. So we understand, there's no fancy, your account, your information, your past orders, that's coming.
Not
but
yet, yes.
Right. So this is the key though, right? This information is what the customer cares about. Where is my stuff? Is it the right stuff? Do you know what I ordered? Did it get processed correctly? Right? And so this is just a very marketing focused example. But this applies to basically anybody that is transacting business, right? If I give you money, there is something I expect in return. And I want as much confirmation as possible that it's happening the way I expect it to happen until I get it in my hands, right? Because a lot of this stuff, and we've seen so much happens through email, through phone calls, and a lot can go wrong. So instead of all the emails back and forth about confirming, and heaven forbid we get to shipping time and you get it in your hands and it's not the right thing, this kind of information just cuts down, this access to this information just cuts down so much on the phone calls and the emails, right? And that's why I want to know it, right? As a customer, I've given you some kind of money, sometimes a large sum of money, or I've committed my reputation to it. If I'm in a bigger, business and I did the job of getting the buy-in and getting the sale, right? Now I'm thinking like, oh my God, I hope it comes in right. Like, I hope it actually does what I told everybody it was going to do, right?
Yeah.
So this whole process, I'm like, okay, where is it? Is it shipping on time? Because anything that goes wrong, including sending it earlier than expected,
Yeah.
because that's been, and I get it, right? Like,
That's not always appreciated.
right. And that's where the personal expectations, like, you tell somebody that, why would they be mad about that? In my personal life, I'm always happy if I get something, sooner. But think about this,
I have
like,
no place to put it. My dock, my loading bay is full. Like, we didn't plan
Right.
for it that day.
it's supposed to get here next week. My guys are off. Like, we need a special, flatbed truck. We need a special, dock. Like, so many things on the logistics side of the customer have to be managed. If you send it to me a week early without telling me, I'm not happy about that because I don't have anybody there to receive it. Now we're paying more, logistics fees all over the place, especially when, you got like borders involved and just all this stuff like needs to be exact and needs to match expectations. And that's where, yes, they might be happy if they get it early, if you tell them they're getting it early, right? But that's the key, the communication. And so what we're looking at here is these three, deliverables associated with this order. And, we click into one of them and we've got all these things that go into this package, right? We use some ideal client profile development, some reporting setup, CMS Hub implementation, right? And then we click into that and we see, these fields, right? And so everything after these two words is being pulled from HubSpot CRM records, right? Specifically, a customer order custom object and a deliverable custom object. And that is associated to my contact record, right? And because it's associated with my contact record, which is specific to my email address, I can log in and see this page that 100 other people might be able to see this page too. But when they come in, they're going to see the information related to their records.
Chris, could you zoom in a bit on just general zoom on the screen share? Yep.
Yep. So, and this is where, and the beauty of this, and it doesn't have to be hard, right? Clearly we did some development work, to get this done. But if you knew the amount of development work that went into it, like, you'd be very, very surprised, right? And even now that it's in our hands and we put it in your hands as the customer, it doesn't take moving mountains to edit how it's working for you.
Speaking of edits, I think it might be interesting to show like how easily you can change these properties that are being pulled here.
Right. So, if you're a HubSpot user, you recognize this icon at the top, and this is how you get to, edit your pages if you're logged into HubSpot. If we go to edit page, here, it opens up the page editor. And we click on this module. And that brings up our left-hand editor here. And we look at column 1. And here's all the deliverable fields that come in, that are currently coming in, right? And it's as simple as, like, okay, either I need to update, like we're putting this in front of customers, and promise date doesn't make sense to them. Okay, let's change the name to, let's say, due date. Right, we're going to leave this alone because this is our internal value inside the CRM, and that's where the information is. We still want this to be a date field. And, I'm going to apply changes. And I'm going to update staging. And this is that was a warning telling me it was a private page, and, it's going to impact all the users who can access that page. Right? I'm just going to come back here, and we see promise date here. And I'm just going to refresh the page, come back in to see details. Right, now it says due date. Right, and I've seen systems where, like most systems out there, right, that companies have in place, WordPress being one of many, where you got to contact your developer, somebody outside your organization, to make a simple change like that, right? And that's the part that, when we talk about scale and growth, you can't. That's not viable. That's not scalable. You can't grow under those circumstances, because the customers are telling you what they need, and you got to be able to act quick, and it can't be, so labor intensive to make changes like that. So what do we do? Because it is labor intensive, we wait. We gotta build a list of like 30 things over 6 months.
In a batch.
Now it makes sense for us to pay the price to send to somebody and get it fixed, because it's going to be way too expensive to do it one at a time. So now, instead of making these changes when the customer asks the first time, we've got to wait an arbitrary amount of time until we build up enough reason for us to want to do it, instead of acting, on the customer's behalf or the internal customer's behalf, right? Because this is only the tip of the iceberg, and like we were talking about earlier, we're already seeing it, with people interested in the customer portal concept. Like, this is the kind of stuff, like the fact that...
Can we take a moment to become HubSpot specific? I'm interested in showing the data model behind this, not too deep, but like just the block diagram to show that it's not, even the CRM implementation is not crazy. Like, we have off-the-shelf HubSpot with 2 custom objects supporting all this activity. There's no crazy, customized implementation. There's no like, it's just an easy data setup that might sound simple on the surface, and is actually simple. It's not complicated. It might be complex, but it's not complicated.
Right. So this is my, my HubSpot contact record, and you can see that customer orders are here. If we click in, we've got, various things that click into deliverables, customer portal, right? So let me go look at the data model. But that's where it's effectively, to see what's on the customer portal screen. It is three records working together, 3 objects, working together, right? We're past deals at this point. So we're not even looking at deals anymore. Deals help us get to this point, but it is a customer order object. It is a deliverable object, and it is the contact record.
There's some amazing HubSpot admins that do some really creative ways to either use deals or use tickets for post-sale activity, but it will quickly show its limitations, and building any complex systems based on MacGyvering the use of deals or tickets is not gonna end well, especially if you're the one who knows everything about it. If you for some reason leave the organization or you're not available that day and things break, it's not going to end well. So we need to figure out how to theorize, theory craft a post-sale object that helps us achieve this, and this is what we're looking at.
Right, and this is the screen. So if you're not familiar with this, this is available to everybody. Some of the data behind this and some of the views behind it, you need Operations Hub. But at the free Operations Hub, you have access to this data model overview. Of course, custom objects you get at the enterprise level, and you can see order and line items here is we're playing with building this, right? And that's when it made sense to me to start calling these deliverables instead of order line items so that we don't get confused, and so these two objects, we have connected to companies, contacts, and deals. So it's not, let me just get back here because I just noticed this today, this cool zoom in, zoom out, option. So it's not significant. The key is...
And you can notice we're not touching sales objects.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, the key is not trying to get, these items to do things they're not meant to do. Right? Like, we see it all the time. People are wishing line items would become this object that we're talking about, basically. The deliverable. Like a real record page for line items. And I tried that when we first started building this, earlier this year. I tried to be a good HubSpot admin and not create a custom object for something that already existed in the system. And we tried to do it, and it just would not work with line items or products. And then I realized, and I'm thinking about this all the time. So this is a recent realization of how to, walk people through this. Products are the planned offering, right? Even with inventory, like management, that's what you plan to sell.
Your standardized offering,
right?
Let's say.
And they need to be managed in a way that is planned, right? It's not for, instantaneous management, right? That's where line items come in. So line items are what need to be managed during the sale, because sometimes you need to be able to customize the hell out of it, or you need to create one that doesn't exist, like for the customer. And the way it's built allows you to do that. And it's always in association with a deal or a quote. And it makes sense to leave it there because it's built for that purpose. It is not built for post-sale management.
And it's good to note that even though this block diagram shows it as its own independent object, it doesn't really behave like the top level objects like deals, tickets, contacts, and companies. So you can't really do the same things you're able to do with those with line items. And so like that's basically where the limitations stem from.
Right. And that's where, like, we'll admit it can be confusing. There's a lot of ways we refer to as objects, but just because it's an object doesn't mean it has a records view. And that's where it's like, okay, we understand how line items are meant to be used. Let's make sure they serve that purpose as well as possible, right? So in the past, that's forced people to get really creative with deals and tickets to manage post-sale activities, right? And in reality, like when I give you money and I have 10 items in the order, I don't care about what happened previously, in terms of the deal. You might be ready with tickets and a help desk to answer any specific questions and do triage and troubleshooting. But I care about each 10 line items of the order, right? Because they could be shipping at different times. They might be shipping to different addresses, like all these things. And we just did a podcast recording, Sarah Scudder, about supply chain. And she said something like, 50% of the time, things change after the PO is given the first time, right? How do you manage that? And how do you manage it in a way that it's not call ridden and email ridden when trying to confirm information with the customer, tell them what's going on? Because this is like supplier, vendor management, there's just all these details. And inevitably, when you're using email and phone calls, it's going to miss stuff. Stuff's going to get misinformed, mistranscribed, and that's where having this data always available for the parties involved goes a long way. And without this specific deliverables object, it's very, very hard to do that.
In fact, there's another aspect of line items is updating line items is destructive. There's no like a history of activity. There's no, you can't see what happened on what day, because in a customer order, that's important. You need to know when a change happened. What was the previous state? What was the current state? What is, all of that. And line items themselves don't offer that flexibility, but a custom object does.
Right. Yeah. And the record view is so important because that's when you can actually manage the thing in a way that helps your internal team, that they can see all the activity, all the communications, all what's related to it, in a way that now they can quickly answer the customer's questions about it, if there is no customer portal. And if there is, it's a much better way to maintain the data so that it is good for the customer portal to see. And, it's just this foundation of visible asynchronous information helps immensely when it comes to troubleshooting and understanding, problems in the process. Because now you're all looking at the same thing. And when you have emails and phone calls and you got to send links about UPS, you got to deal with all these barriers with like maybe they're, how many times have you sent a link to somebody and for whatever reason they can't open it up because of the browser that they're using, right?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, seems small and annoying, but that's the kind of stuff that you just, instead of trying to solve that, you just remove that from the process. And that's where here's your login for the customer portal, and that's going to it's going to look the same every time you log in, no matter which browser, no matter if you're pulling it up on your phone, right? It's going to look the same and you get the same data. And that's where when you see data mismatches there, now it's not for any other reason than the data is wrong or different than expected inside of HubSpot. Then we think about why that is, right? So it just removes, so many variables from this process and provides a foundation, to stand on when this customer request comes out of nowhere about this process that goes right every other time. So like, why in the world am I having to answer this question? I know right where to go to try to solve the problem. I don't have to ask different departments, to serve the immediate issue. I might have to investigate with different departments, but I don't have to talk to them to answer the initial question, right? So we're excited about this. I mean, we've got a lot of good feedback. This is the problem we experienced inside the organization. One, just customer experience. But two, the amount of time spent on these activities of answering customer questions makes it hard to make time to create. And if you're in customer service, you could be creating how-to videos, which further helps with the customer experience and reduces the need to even ask these questions in the first place, right? You could be engaging on LinkedIn, right? Making sure, again, it's another level of support that you're answering questions proactively in new ways, right? Questions that aren't like, you need to be answering real questions
I was just
about
gonna
how
say,
to
like,
solve problems, not
yeah,
order status update questions.
if someone feels like we're going overboard, it's like, no, that's not customer service. Well, this allows them to stop being on calls for order status updates and be on calls to troubleshoot, be on calls to actually fix problems for the people who need them then and there, and not be wasting time on something that can be replaced by, I'm not going to even say an email, a customer portal.
Right.
With that, thank you for anyone who joined us live. We're trying this out. We like calling this building in public because it's a less structured way to just engage live with anyone who wants to learn more about what we're trying to do and talk through. Even an opportunity to challenge us. We're happy to, engage. Otherwise, Chris, anything else you want to add?
No, I was glad we could do this today. We really hope to start doing this more often, and are happy to receive any kind of feedback, related to what we presented, or other problems you might have inside or outside of HubSpot. So we've been doing this for 4 months. It's a different experience inside of the HubSpot ecosystem. So we're learning a lot as we go, and we want to, share those learnings, with you guys. So thanks for joining us today.
And if you want to see a recording of this, you're going to find something on YouTube. And if you rummage through our profiles, you might find this one. See you in the next one.
Have a good one.